Well, last night I went to the cinema for the first time in a long, long time to watch Indiana Jones, the new film, the new Indiana Jones film, which I've been looking forward to for a long time. I won't spoil it if you've not seen it. The Dial of Destiny is the name of the film, and it's all about time. I mean, it is kind of a meditation on time. It's all about clocks and watches, and the thing they're chasing is this ancient time device made by Archimedes, and it's the whole theme is time. And of course, Harrison Ford is an elderly man now. It will be his last Indiana Jones film. It was kind of an interesting meditation on time and the ending of things as well, which I thought was quite interesting. Often we might think, if I was just somebody else, wouldn't it be great to be somebody else, somebody rich, somebody famous, somebody with less troubles, somebody without my particular life problems and things like that. It would be great just to switch with someone who was struggling less than we are. And then, certainly when I was younger, I was really fascinated by other time periods, other ages. So I used to think, I don't belong in this age, and I would love to have been born in another time. So we might want to be other people. We might want to be born in another time. Maybe they had it easier. In some cultures, like certainly Buddhism, you have rebirth. So there's the whole notion of this isn't your only life. The idea that you've been other people and beings. Maybe, one of those was much better than the life you have now, and that you're going to become other people and other beings in the future, in this kind of model of rebirth, many, many rounds of lifetimes. That can also be a motivating factor for people practicing so they get a good rebirth. But what struck me was that no matter who else you become, no matter which age you could have lived in, even if you could have been reborn 1,000 times as a king or queen in a row, you would still have to deal with your ordinary human sense experience. That's what you've got. Whether you're born 5,000 years in the future, 5,000 years ago, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, a beggar, doesn't matter. That's what we've got. We've got this sense experience happening for us. We have a mind with thoughts, we have a body with sensations and emotions, and we are in constant contact with the world. I said this last week, but we're the interface with the world. And there's just this constant contact happening all the time. It's happening now. The next sound you hear, the next feeling in your body, it's contact. So we can't outrun that. That is the nature of human experience, is contact. So it doesn't matter so much, if you were famous or anything like that. That's not necessarily going to make you happier or more free. What really matters is, can you navigate this sense experience that you're having? How do you navigate it? What do we do with it? These thoughts and emotions and reactions and longings and cravings and regrets and desires and grief and loss. Like, what do we do with that? That's what counts. And the incredible thing is that you don't have to wait until you're healthier or richer or more successful or reborn in a future life or remember some epic past life that you had to then be happier. You can work with that right now. This is like a practical enlightenment, the most practical form of enlightenment that you're going to have. Because the other thing is that when we're sidetracked like that, we often get pulled into, ideas. In one way, ideas are the cause of all psychological suffering. We're fairly obsessed by ideas or concepts, assumptions, beliefs. The ideas around spirituality, enlightenment, awakening, this, that, or the other, certain practices, beliefs. It's all fascinating, but again, we're quite sidetracked then because we think transformation or enlightenment or freedom is about something special we've read about that isn't happening now. Or it couldn't happen to me because I'm not Buddhist or Christian or XYZ. But actually, the very fact that you are having a sense experience right now, as every other human being is, in this moment, everything you need for your own transformation, discovery of peace, awakening, it is right here, right now. This is what you work with. You work with the content and the contact that you're already having. And if we ignore that because we're looking for something special, you're basically missing the key to the front door. The lotus grows from the mud. Well, your ordinary human experience with all of this sense contact that's happening, that's what you work with. We're not waiting for something else to happen. I think this is quite pervasive with most people, that we're looking for something extra, something that probably doesn't take a lot of work, something that we can just believe in or assume, because that's the easy route, the path of least resistance. We can just believe something. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, the direct message that you're already what you seek, or that you are already God in that kind of ultimate reality sense, it's true. I mean, you are. That's the kindest thing someone could tell you. Wake up, you're God. That should be a name for my next book. Wake up, wake up, you're God. That's quite good. So but and you can walk around and kind of, I know, I'm this, I know I'm that. But that's like believing you're a millionaire, but you've not actually got the money in the bank. Because if you did, you'd be living in a completely different way. It's like, the beggar on the street says, "Oh, no, 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 I'm a millionaire." Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm a millionaire. Well, why don't you live like one? So this isn't hocus pocus. As you know, because you're doing the practice here, it changes your life, and it is measurable. It is measurable. And sometimes just basic practice can have fairly quick results, but certainly long term, even if you go through periods where you're working with thought patterns, feelings, emotions, and you think, this isn't changing, I sit with this all the time, I have to wean my mind off this particular train of thought all the time, I guarantee that pays off. I guarantee that at some point in the future, having put the work in, it will just drop, because you put the work in. Which means that all work is good work. Everything we're doing here counts. Every little thing counts, and it's accumulative in that sense. In a way, in a sense, we are putting money in the bank. Every time you practice, you're putting money in the bank. There's wealth accruing by the fact that you're putting these practices in action now. So otherwise, we're just waiting for some guru or some magical experience to happen. And this is just because of things I see all the time, really. Certainly online, come and do this practice, come and do this ceremony, come and try this, come and do that. And that's all great. These experiences can be useful, and they can be very powerful. But the most simple way to transform is overlooked. That what you need for transformation is a different relationship to your human experience. And you're having that acute human experience now. This is it. This is all you'll get. All you'll ever have is this. When you were 10, there were thoughts, feelings, and emotions. When you were 25, there were still thoughts, feelings. When you're 105, there will still be thoughts, feelings, and emotions. What are we doing with that content? That's where your freedom lies. And we get to work with it now. I don't know what we're waiting for. And that's the lovely thing about this practice, is that even for a beginner to sit there and learn to focus on their breath and not get dragged into thoughts, they are already starting to transform their inner experience. It's the simplest thing, but it doesn't sound special. Not only does it not sound special, it doesn't sound spiritual. In a sense, it's not spiritual at all, because, in the sense that we're contacting some kind of spirit domain or dimension. I keep seeing these people talking about, is it 5D? Is that the next thing? 5D, how to live in 5D or something. just come back to this now, come back to this breath, this sound, this feeling. What's your relationship to that like before we go off chasing other ideas? The barrier, if you like, to that transformation are the ideas we fill our head with. Once they're dropped, what can we say? We can't say anything because there's no concepts. There's a field of experience happening, yes, but we're not calling it me, you, this, that, world, not world, freedom, suffering. That's all the labeling is dropped away. And what's left is just this fierce, blazing reality. Call it what you want. It's not the word. And that's it. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for what's already happening, but we come at it through the mind. We come at it through words. The reason ideas are so problematic, or concepts, is that they always refer to something that isn't happening. You might get enlightened in the future by doing this special practice. Well, we've already just lost ourselves on a whole load of concepts that refer to something that isn't happening now. They've taken you off into a fantasy land. That's what concepts do, because they're not referring to what's actually happening right now. And to be with what's happening now, you have to drop concepts. If you were just able to stay here for the next 10 minutes without introducing a single concept about who you are, what the world is, drop past, drop future, drop enlightenment, drop suffering, you'd laugh because you'd realize, oh God, it's this simple. It's this simple. But we're kind of living off concepts. Enlightenment is just a concept. Suffering, it's a concept. And it's the dropping of those words and ideas and concepts that is the way to taste that freedom. Of course, for the mind, though, that's pretty scary because the mind builds itself on a story. That's all the mind is a story. We tell ourselves. It's nothing more than that. And if you stop telling yourself that story, well, you're not that. So this is where we talk about unknowing or not knowing. You realize that, as Socrates pointed out, this is in no way unique to Buddhism, that we don't know anything. All that's coming out of our mouths is poetry, if you like. That's all it is, poetry. But it's all conceptual. If you want to know what's really happening, you have to drop your concepts and experience directly what's happening. So this is the freedom. The freedom comes from working with your direct contact with the world, your sense experience, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you think. This is what we learn how to work with and transform. And then you live more and more in this state of not knowing, where the mind is not the official truth anymore. It's just the mind. It's a functional tool, but it doesn't really know anything. It knows concepts, it knows ideas, but it's always missing the direct encounter with being or enlightenment or non-duality. It's all the same. Again, you have that moment where everything drops and there's just this open field of knowing. That's what this is. But it's straitjacketed by a lifetime of concepts and language. And then we think that this isn't it. I must look for something else. And it's like the fish searching for water. We have everything we need. I was talking to someone the other day, and I was talking about, in the TV show The Apprentice, when people get fired, what they tend to often say is, "Thank you for the opportunity." Oh, yeah, that's Lord Sugar. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, you can thank your sense experience for the opportunity, because without it, there'd be no freedom. You wouldn't know how to work with it if we didn't have it. This human experience is the key to freedom. There's two ways to be with your human experience. One is we live in our heads, divorced from the flow of that experience. And that in itself limits us, and we don't really know what life does because we don't really experience it directly. We think about it. So we kind of live a half life. And you're trying to avoid what life does. You're trying to hang on to other bits because you think you can. You think the world can obey what we want it to do, wishful thinking. But the sages, certainly the ancient sages, I don't know if this is disappointing. I mean, it should be disappointing. They just realize that they are nature. They're just nature. Winter doesn't get to say, hang on a sec, I'm going to hang on here, universe. You can, leave spring off for a little bit. I'm going to stick with winter. And the universe says, okay, right. Winter's going to be 6 months long now. No, you have your unique human life. You have your karma, which is just your personal conditioning to you. Your genes are going to do what your genes are going to do. Your life will be as long as your life is long. That's it. That's it. But that's the miracle. That is the miracle itself. And so the sages, that's it. This is it then. This is the magical mystery tour right here. It's special enough without trying to make the universe do what I want to do. It's so ordinary. Chogyam Trungpa used to say that enlightenment is the ego's biggest disappointment because the mind doesn't get anything from it. The mind does not get enlightened. Your mind will not get enlightened. After enlightenment, your mind carries on full of concepts. You just recognize, I'm not that. That's the enlightenment. I'm not that. I'm being. I'm that which knows the mind. And even that's saying too much.